I'm Duane Bernard, live right here in Rainier, Oregon, and been involved in hunting just about all of my life. I mean, it goes back to about 8-9 years old, I guess. Started out, of course, right here locally, but since then it's turned to an international thing because we've hunted over a good share of the world. My wife, Joanne, and I both like to hunt, like to travel. Been involved with several boards. I've been on most of the time with board of directors for Safari Club International, their international board. I was there for about 20 years, I guess, regional rep for Northwest United States and Southern British Columbia, Canada. And been on the advisory board for U.S. Fish and Wildlife. I was on Access and Habitat board for Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife for 8 years, 2 terms. And Oregon Hunters Association State Board plus the county board and several more. But I won't bore you with all the little details. But that was the main ones. Example of the distances around this globe that we have hunted. We've hunted a long ways north in the Yukon and so on, and we've also hunted a long ways south. The yellow license plate there's from Namibia, Africa, and the license plates over there are the N stands for Namibia and the W stands for the city in Namibia, which was Windhoek, where that particular license plate come from. The polar bear in the top one there's pretty much self-explanatory, I think. The leopard I got in Zimbabwe. I was over there on, with Joanne, and actually our daughter and son-in-law were there on the same trip. We hunted leopard and Cape buffalo on the same trip and got both of them, plus several other animals that year. The leopard was killed from a blind. He was exactly 50 yards away, chewing on a piece of meat that we'd left a couple of days before. And one shot from the 375 made sure he didn't leave. That's actually an award for the size of the leopard. He's an extremely big leopard. He placed, I don't remember where now, but he placed well up in the Safari Club International Record Book. He was 7 feet 4 inches long from tip to tip and weighed 174 pounds. And the gold award is the top third of all of them that are in the record book. Silver being the middle third, and the bronze awards the bottom third of the record book. The Cape buffalo was there wasn't a big bunch of Cape buffalo. There was only a few in the area we were hunting, and the guy that went with me, a good friend, Steve Chambers, although the family was there as well, but Steve wanted a Cape buffalo, as I did, and he got his one day. He missed one that day, and then he killed one. Well, the next day I went out, looked for the same herd of buffalo, and I got it. Took 2 shots. I did get it. They're a very dangerous animal, by the way. And when I got up to it, I noticed on close examination there was a bullet hole in his left ear. Well, it was an old bullet hole. It had been there for probably years. But I got the idea to rub my finger in some fresh blood and go around that bullet hole. And when we got back to where Steve was, I told him, I got the one that you missed yesterday. And he looked at that. He said, how could I have possibly missed it or shot it there? I said, I don't know, but there's a bullet hole. And he was just beside himself. He couldn't understand it. And finally, I couldn't hold it any longer, and I had to bust out laughing. I said, told him what I'd done, and it's been kind of a joke between him and I ever since. Yeah, it didn't make the gold award because of the size. It's just not quite that big, but it's a silver award, which I'm sure not ashamed of, because those things they're fun to hunt. If they had Cape buffalo in British Columbia, I'd probably hunt them about every other year. They're really exciting to hunt, very dangerous. I had a good friend killed by one after I got this, a few years afterwards, and they're quite dangerous. This is my biggest mule deer, biggest one I've ever killed, and it came from Unit 270 in Montana, where our cabin is, and we were staying in the cabin, and I was hunting those big mule deer, and I think I had passed up, if my memory serves me right, about 72 or 3 nice big bucks before I killed that one. And he's not the biggest one in the world, of course, but he was big enough to get a gold award from SCI. He did score well. I think that was probably my most enjoyable hunt of my life. I was all alone. I had been hunting the mule deer, and I saw this one the night before I killed him. Excuse me. Saw him the night before I killed him, and I knew that that's the one I wanted, but he was too far away to shoot then, and it was getting too late in the day to go after him. So I went back to the cabin, and when my partner Larry Irwin showed up, he asked if I'd seen anything, and I said I did. I saw the buck. I saw the buck that I'm going to kill, the one I want, and I'll get you to drop me off in the morning, and I'll go see if I can get him. And that's the result. I did. Larry dropped me off, and I went out and found him again, pretty close to where he'd been the night before, and one shot did the trick. And I think it was the best hunt of my life for various reasons. Those are evidence, I guess, or awards that I got for being the first one in the state to kill all 9 animals in the state when there was 9 animals in the state. Now there's, I think, about 11 or maybe 12, because they've added the Columbia white-tailed deer. They've added the mountain goat, which you couldn't hunt at that time. And now I think they've even added the turkey, which I have killed turkeys, but I haven't killed the Columbia whitetail, and I haven't killed the mountain goat. But I was the first one to kill all 9 of the original 9 Oregon big game animals. So that's what those are for. Cougar was my 9th big game animal in the state of Oregon. That's the one that finished the Super Slam in Oregon, and it was hunted with dogs. I don't remember the year without looking at the plaque here, but that was with dogs when you could still use dogs legally, and it was taken out of Enterprise Joseph area, northeast Oregon. I was elated to finally get all 9 animals within the state. The cougar is not an easy animal to get. They're a lot easier with dogs, but it's still you're still hunting. I could have come home empty-handed. I didn't, but could have. It made me pretty happy. I was kind of my own private quest, I guess. I was trying to get one of each animal in the state. I have a daughter-in-law that's killed about half of them, and so I'm kind of proud of that too. That mountain zebra is they're kind of unique. A lot of people don't realize that there's, I think, 3 different types of zebra. The plain zebra is a real common one that you see on television all the time, and they live down on the grassy plains of most of Africa. But the mountain zebra it's also called Mrs. Hartman's zebra, but mountain zebra is more common name, and they live right up in the rocks. It's just like hunting sheep, and I've done quite a bit of sheep hunting. They're really much more sporting than the common plains zebra. They're a beautiful animal, real wary, just like sheep, and they're they're very, very smart, very cunning. They're altogether different than the plains zebra. This mountain goat here off of my right shoulder was killed in southeast British Columbia. Bob Fontana was the outfitter, guide, a good friend of mine. In fact, he's the one that was killed by the Cape buffalo in Africa after I hunted with him, and we hunted with him several times in British Columbia. I used to book for him when we were booking hunts. But the mountain goat, my estimation, is always quite a trophy. The sheep, I love to hunt sheep. They're the glamour species, but they're not near as challenging as these white mountain goats. These things go in such steep country that you better be in good shape and not too old when you start after one. They are great. I shot this one with a .375 mag, and one shot put him down. He gave one little kick and started rolling down the mountain, and he rolled just real slow, just like that. He just barely rolled, but he rolled by me about 55 yards away as he rolled down the mountain, but it was too steep for me to go to try to stop the big bugger. Consequently, he broke off the tips of both horns rolling down, so he did not make the record book. Otherwise, he surely would have. I had killed an impala in Africa, and Joanne was being taken back to the lodge for some reason. I don't remember the exact reason, but one of the trackers drove her back towards the lodge, and on the way they saw this large impala, and it is a very large impala. And anyway, Joanne shot it, a lot bigger than the one I shot. But the sad part is, I guess I wasn't with her, and nobody she knew was with her. She could hardly communicate with the tracker that was driving her, so it kind of took some of the glory away from it. But she got a very big impala. That is a huge one. The bush buck I killed on the Zambezi River in Africa, and they're quite a game animal. There's a lot like hunting black-tailed deer around here. It's very brushy. They live right along the edge of the river, and they're very elusive, very sneaky. We walked by one that day before I killed this one, and got right by him, and he jumped out from behind a big tree that we had just passed. That's how sneaky they are. But that one is a very nice sized one. It did make SCI record book. Yeah, the Himalaya tahr there, I actually killed that on the South Island in New Zealand in the Southern Alps. But they're native to the Himalaya mountains in Asia, and they live right up on top of the roughest country imaginable. We flew over some of that country with a helicopter before we decided to hunt there. And it's just, a lot of it is absolutely straight up and down. But I did take that one. He had run from me, kind of ducked into a little shallow cave, and had a hard time seeing him then. But when I finally saw him, I shot about 250 yards, and he was looking right at us, and I shot him right in the mouth. But he is a very nice one. I never did have him scored, but he probably would have made the book as well. But they're a beautiful animal, and they live in some of the roughest country imaginable. Joanne killed that big Alaska moose on a, I don't know, fifth or sixth trip to Alaska, I think, and we used to go up there hunting quite a bit, quite often. Anyway, it's 62 inches wide and exactly the same as what she is tall. She's 5'2". It did not make the book, but it was very close. But it's still, she had a hard time shooting that. She was standing on top of a tracked vehicle, kind of like a large tank that the guide used to hunt with, and she could just barely see that moose. So she had to shoot from standing on her tiptoes, which is about the worst possible way you could imagine for a shooting stance. But that's the way she, it took her several shots, but she did kill it. And she got a very nice moose. Yeah, the top animal there is a red stag from the North Island in New Zealand. We were down there on our anniversary one year, which is in April. But that happens to be the roaring season for the red stags down there. That is their fall. The other red stag here was off the South Island. We took both of them on the same trip down there for about 3 or 4 weeks. I hunted on the North Island first, and then we took a week and drove around kind of celebrating our anniversary, and then hunted on the South Island for a week and took the other stag and the tar. Beautiful area to hunt. The two big bulls below those stags are the only two animals in here that my family and I did not kill. Either Joanne or I killed the rest of them in here. But they were taken by a good old neighbor and mentor of mine that I used to hunt with when I was just a kid. He willed them to me, and I'm proud to have them displayed in my den. In a few more years, when they're not in my den, they'll be in my son's den. But they were both killed within a couple miles of the house right here. And his kids didn't do much hunting. They weren't into it like we are, and he appreciated the fact that I was. So before he died, he willed them to me, and they're both in the record book. He didn't have the extra money to have them entered in Boone and Crockett record book, so I paid that for him years ago, and he appreciated it and left them to me. The one in the middle of those three there is it's actually the first deer I ever killed. But I'll tell you that later. But it was in the record book. They raised the minimum and they kicked it out. Over in the corner there, the guy holding the two big elephant tusks, that was Peter Capstick, and he is or was, before he died, pretty well-known author and professional hunter from Africa. And we got pretty well acquainted with him, and I have his whole set of leather-bound books downstairs, collector's edition, and some of those are personalized to Joanne and I, as that one is. It says in the bottom, to my friends, the Bernards, or my United States friends, or whatever it says. I don't remember. But anyway, Peter Capstick was a pretty well-known African author. One of the clown face, that's a gemsbuck. In the United States, they're called oryx, and they have them in the Southwest, but they were transplanted. But that's a gemsbuck from Zimbabwe, and a waterbuck next to it. Involved in hunting just about all of my life. I mean, it goes back to about 8, 9 years old, I guess, and always been a hunter. Enjoyed it. Enjoy the conservation part of it.